You could argue that the shopper at the dollar store chain is a bit more price sensitive than even the ones going to Walmart or Target. So the idea that you'll get costs of goods sold rising, to quote the accounting term, which is really what Dollar Tree is talking about, it's got to be an issue.
So I'm really surprised. I got to be honest. I'm actually disappointed in you, Dave Wilson.
Why?
Your tie. There's no Thanksgiving theme. There are no bright colors.
I don't actually own a Thanksgiving.
Oh, come on. You have 4,000 ties.
Christmas
you have
idea.
tie collection. How can you not have a sort of Thanksgiving?
Just wait a few weeks when we get to the holiday season.
I know. I remember, but I was so looking forward to the collection.
Don't have a Thanksgiving tie. Sorry.
All right. Well, we might have to remedy that. I am wondering.
You work on it. You work on it.
I do want to talk a little bit. We're talking retail ahead of the Black Friday on Friday. Does it matter anymore? Because I see these windows and they're all saying, get ahead of the crowds, come in now. The sales are now, so you don't have to run each other over.
Well, the retailers would love to kind of sell that. And the question is, are there people even bothering to go to the stores to look at the windows, let alone to look at the prices on the merchandise? Because so much more is done online these days, and increasingly so. And that's something that, retailers have had to adapt to. And the ones that, are holding up have managed to make that transition work for them. And it's come with a lot of struggle. And, we've seen some of the specialty chains, think about the Gap or L Brands really have issues because people aren't going to the malls and shopping their stores.
Well, you said Gap, you said L Brands. I will give you one of the sort of movers today. There is the potential for L Brands and Gap to be downgraded by S&P. The S&P did downgrade them, so people are watching their bonds. I'm just throwing it out there. They're on the sort of brink of getting downgraded from the top tier of junk lower.
But they're junk already, which is telling you something. They're in the high yield category to begin with. It's not like they would be coming out of investment grade, right? Which would be a different sort of argument.
It's not an argument. I just thought it was interesting.
It's an observation.
It's an observation. Thank you, Paul.
Bloomberg Stocks editor Dave Wilson, thanks so much for joining us. There's some action underneath there. I just learned a new function by overlooking your shoulder, top bond, right? So you can get to see the cool stories. So now I know how you do it. She always comes up with these great stories and line items about bonds. I'm like, where do you get that?
I have other tricks.
All right, so for people out there that want to get, it's top BON, right?
Yeah, I'm looking right now at Thanksgiving ties, though. If you want to look over my shoulder at what we're going to buy for Dave Wilson. These can't be enough. Yeah, these can't be. We need something that's like, in the shape of a turkey.
Right. Well, I can't believe he doesn't have a turkey tie, but I'm sure there's
here's
one back
a full turkey suit. Oh, I'm going to have a great time. I'll let you save me.
Very good. S&P, we are up 3 points here. Dow up 30, NASDAQ up 5. A quiet kind of first 40 minutes of trading here in U.S. Equity markets. Yes,
this suit's called Grandma Giblet's Thanksgiving suit.
Oh, that's it. Very good. All right, very good. We will come back with some more turkey and tie talk. This is Bloomberg. Right now, let's head down to our 99.1 studios in Washington, D.C. for world and national headlines with Nathan Hager. Nathan.
Paul, thank you. The Justice Department has asked a federal judge to put her ruling on hold, compelling former White House counsel Don McGahn to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. The panel agreed to a 7-day delay as the Trump administration pursues its appeal. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson yesterday rejected the administration's argument that McGahn and other officials close to the president have broad immunity from congressional subpoenas.
The DOJ has made clear that they will appeal yesterday's decision. It is not a final decision. It is not necessarily a surprising decision. I was with the president when he was briefed on the decision coming down, actually, and nobody was surprised.
That's White House counsel Kellyanne Conway. President Trump says, quote, "I will always protect our great war fighters. I've got your backs," end quote. He put that in a tweet this morning, a day after Defense Secretary Mark Esper said the president gave him a direct order to stop the disciplinary review for a Navy SEAL accused of war crimes. That controversy led to Navy Secretary Richard Spencer's forced resignation. More on that from Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli.
The calculation that President Trump is making on this particular issue is that he wants to stand with the men and women serving in the military, even when it appears to be controversial to do so.
The top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, Jack Reed, says President Trump's involvement in Chief Petty Officer Edward Gallagher's case erodes the basic command structure of the military. At least 16 people are dead after a strong earthquake this morning in Albania. Another 600 or so were hurt in this magnitude 6.4 that sparked more than 100 aftershocks. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg.
Intellectual property, one of the most valuable things we market in Asia.
I understand you're trying to rival the likes of San Francisco, New York.
We have our own brand of intellectual property.
Let's focus first on this U.S.-China trade story.
Find out why it's so valuable.
Do you need to see substance in an agreement or just that they stop shouting at each other?
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia, tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Open calendar. What's my schedule looking like?
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an emergency flash flood between Park and First Street.
What? No, that doesn't work. I'm busy then. Decline. Decline.
Floods don't exactly work around your schedule. Disasters don't plan ahead. But you can. It starts with talking to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. So don't wait. Communicate. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Next. Nah. Nope. Boring. If you skip through loads of your TV channels, why are you paying loads of money for them? With TalkTalk TV and Faster Fibre, you can access the nation's favourite TV shows, a world of films and sport, live and on demand, all for £25.95 a month for 18 months. And if you're quick, you'll even get a year of Amazon Prime on us. Search TalkTalk TV. TalkTalk. For everyone. Offer ends 5th of December, subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
There is simply nothing else like it. Giraffe strut, bird swoop, gazelles leap. And as the music soars, the entire Serengeti comes to life around you. This is Disney's The Lion King. Experience it at London's Lyceum Theatre. Visit thelionking.co.uk.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99 and 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
The S in Audi S-Line stands for many things like sporty, stylish, streamlined, and now seductively priced. Like the new Audi A4 S-Line, which you can now have from £359 per month, £2,154 initial rental. Test drive one at your local Audi centre, but you'll have to be swift. The offer ends soon. Search Audi S-Line. Audi, Vorsprung durch Technik. With 48-month contract hire, 10,000 miles per annum, 18s and over, subject to status. Damage charges may apply. No ownership. Ordered by 31st of December 2019 from participating centres. Audi Financial Services. Visit audi.co.uk.
This year, make Christmas shopping a pleasure. Come to Bicester Village, with over 160 beautiful boutiques set in a fairy tale Cotswolds Christmas garden, glittering by day and magically illuminated by night. After a day's hard work finding the perfect gifts, reward yourself with festive menus and cocktails at Farm Shop Restaurant and Cafe by Soho House & Co. or a delicious dinner at Cafe Wolseley. Bicester Village, the perfect place for Christmas shopping.
Keys? Check. Lunchbox? Check. 8-year-old ready to go? Check. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new segregated section of Cycleway 4 under construction on the A200 Creek Road around the junction with Deptford Church Street. So expect delays due to lane closures. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, blackjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cash. Cashback everyday credit card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. Plus subject to approval.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. Is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Stocks again reached record highs after China's comments about prospects for a Phase 1 trade deal boosted optimism. Treasuries in most European sovereign bonds are up too. We check the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500's up 0.1% up 3. Dow's up 0.1% up 33, and the Nasdaq's up 0.1% up 10. The 10-year's up 6/30 seconds with a yield of 1.73%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up 0.5% at 58.27 a barrel, while COMEX gold's little changed at 14.6330 an ounce. The dollar yen 109.05. The euro's $1.10.15, and the British pound $1.28.53. Buyers snapped up U.S. homes over the past 2 months at the fastest pace in more than 12 years, adding to signs of sturdy housing demand amid lower prices and borrowing costs. Single-family house sales ran at a 733,000 annualized pace in October, topping all estimates in a Bloomberg survey. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
This focus on fixed income is brought to you by PIMCO. For investors who demand more than the markets deliver, all investments contain risk and may lose value. Consult your investment professional before investing. Well, for each of the last 8 to 9 days, we've had the yield curve kind of flattening out a little bit to get a sense of what that means for the economy. We welcome our good friend Ira Jersey. Ira's the chief U.S. interest rate strategist for Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us on the phone. Ira, thanks so much for joining us. Again, we've seen, I think, each day over the last 8 or 9, we've seen a little bit of a flattening of the yield curve. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I think as kind of optimism over a trade deal and over the economy rebounding fades, you've this what we call bull flattening. So the market's been rallying, so yields are going lower, and at the same time the market's flattening. And I think that kind of activity will continue, where you see the market rally and the curve flatten, primarily because if things do go really bad and the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates to zero, then the next thing that they're likely to do is to buy long-term bonds, and the market's kind of anticipating that type of activity. activity with the trade that you're seeing.
So, Ira, the consensus, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of for one cut next year from the Federal Reserve, maybe in September. Is that still consistent with what you're looking for?
Well, so I think the market's a little bit confused by what's going to happen. So I think what the market's pricing right now is that the preponderance of risk is that you'll see a slowing economy, you'll see some risk off in markets, and because of that, you'll wind up seeing the Federal Reserve potentially ease interest rates sometime between June and January 2021, right? So that's basically the midpoint of that being September, like you said. So it's not that the market thinks that that there is going to be a cut in September. It's that there's a lot of uncertainty around the path of the economy, and that the base case is for the economy to do poorly. I'm not as convinced personally that that's going to be the case. So a lot of the forward-looking indicators that I look at seem to be bottoming at this point, and if they do start to turn around, I think that the market will kind of price out that cut pretty quickly.
So, Ira, let's focus a little bit on the short end of the curve. We had that issue several months ago with the repo market, the overnight repo market, and I know you were highlighting to Lisa and I before that this might be an issue as we head into year end. Just give us an update on what's happening at that part of the yield curve.
Yeah, so the overnight repo has been pretty stable, but there still is this worry about year end when banks have to do a lot of window dressing and they reduce their balance sheet, so therefore they don't offer repo like they do on other days. And because of that, the Federal Reserve did a 42-day repo operation that basically goes over year end. They did it yesterday, and it was pretty heavily subscribed. There were they only did $25 billion and it was multiple. It was more than 2 times oversubscribed. So I think that the Fed needs to increase the amount of term operations. So they're doing a couple more term operations next week, and when they do those, I think that they'll increase the size. There is the risk that you're going to see some volatility in those funding markets, but I do think that ultimately it'll be like a normal hiccup like you typically see. I think that the difference is now is that most people haven't been paying attention to the repo market, and so they're not used to these kind of gyrations that you see with where repo rates go from 2% up to 5%. That's actually not that unusual on quarter end and year end dates, but it's just that it's gotten some focus, so therefore people are nervous about it.
And Ira, I know when this first kind of reared its ugly head several months ago, the Fed says, "Hey, we've got this in the short term. We can go out there and stabilize the market, and we're also looking for a longer term solution." Have we gotten a longer term solution yet?
No. So the Fed wants to do some kind of repo facility because they don't think that they need to do these overnight operations like they've been doing. Which are kind of normal, like pre-financial crisis activity. Pre-financial crisis, they were in the market every single day doing repurchase agreements, and I think that we're back into that type of environment where they're going to be in the market regularly, just because the market needs a little bit of greasing of the wheels that turn the financial sector. I think that actually the tools that they're using now seem to be working, so I don't think they need this kind of full allotment facility, but I still think that they're going to try to figure out how to do one. The problem is that with a full allotment facility, if people use it, there's a worry that there's going to be stigma, and people will be like, "Oh, this bank can't fund itself, or this dealer can't fund itself," and that'll lead to volatility in credit spreads or the equity of that particular institution. So they're worried about how to kind of remove the stigma, which the current operations do because they're an auction, and because they're an auction, it's basically everyone saying like we're going to get cheap funding if we can, and if not, well, then we won't use the facility.
Ira, 30 seconds left. I know you guys at Bloomberg Intelligence publish your 2020 outlooks. What's your big theme for 2020?
Yeah, I think the transition away from LIBOR and toward the secured overnight financing rate, which actually is based on repo, is probably going to be one of the big stories for 2020, because you have to see an acceleration in the adoption of SOFR, the secured overnight financing rate, if LIBOR is really going to go away at the end of 2021, and that really has to take place next year. So things have been ramping up, but I think that there's going to be kind of this exponential increase in the uptake of SOFR next year, particularly with the Federal Reserve publishing establishing additional rates.
Ira, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your commentary. Ira Jersey, he's Chief U.S. Interest Rate Strategist for Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us on the phone, giving us his thoughts of the Fed. He is our go-to source for all things at the Federal Reserve. Again, the market, as Ira mentioned, kind of discounting one rate cut at some point next year, probably in the back half of the year. It looks like the Fed is content to kind of sit where it is right now for the foreseeable future, but perhaps some more easing in the second half of next year. Data dependent, of course, and so we had some data out today showing a relatively stable market. We had Fed Chairman Powell at a speech last night saying he likes where the economy is right now. So all those things seem to suggest that we will have a fairly quiet Fed over the next several months. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Stocks are slightly higher. China and the U.S. are inching their way forward on the first phase of a trade deal. Beijing said the two sides have reached consensus on properly resolving relevant issues. Still, the lack of a deadline has led to speculation that the talks could last into next year. Fed Chairman Jay Powell said the U.S. economy's glass is more than half full, and he predicts that with the right policies, the benefits can be spread more broadly to all Americans. At the same time, Powell signaled that interest rates would probably remain on hold. Dell is exploring a sale of its cybersecurity business. Bloomberg has learned that Dell hopes it could get at least $1 billion for RSA security. And the road home for Thanksgiving will be more crowded than it's been since 2005, thanks to a strong economy and more drivers going solo. Traffic is set to be especially snarled, with nearly 18% of travelers driving alone this holiday, up from 15% last year, according to Gas Buddy. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition.
For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
This year, make Christmas shopping a pleasure. Come to Bicester Village, with over 160 beautiful boutiques set in a fairy tale Cotswolds Christmas garden, glittering by day and magically illuminated by night. After a day's hard work finding the perfect gifts, reward yourself with festive menus and cocktails at Farm Shop Restaurant and Cafe by Soho House & Co. or a delicious dinner at Cafe Wolseley. Bicester Village, the perfect place for Christmas shopping.
If your ideas challenge the status quo, if you have advised people you had no right advising, if you built companies and lost companies and built them again, if you've been called a pillock, a dreamer, an innovator and a genius, if you thrive in the 11th hour, If you have blown it and completely nailed it in the same day, prepare for your next departure.
Do business right. Travel Virgin Atlantic.
25% off. This week at Tesco, we're taking that exact percentage off wine and fizz when you buy 6 bottles or more. So, technically, every 4th glass is on us. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. 18 plus excludes Express and Scotland Max 36. Exclusions apply. Ends 2nd of December.
Looking for a phone that makes everything look crystal clear? Like the incredible iPhone XR with a liquid retina HD display? Look no further than Tesco Mobile's best ever Black Friday event. You can find an iPhone XR for just $27.49 a month, saving you £180. Be quick, this deal ends Sunday 1st of December. Tesco Mobile, every little helps.
Best ever Black Friday based on range of products in promotion was £32.49, now £27.49. Offer ends 1st of December. 36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage agreement, subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Hey, turn it down. Now play the big hit. That's better. Get our lowest ever price on these Bose QC35 wireless headphones. With noise cancellation and voice control in the Black Tag event at Curry's PC World. Or get £50 off Bose SoundLink on-ear wireless headphones. Either way, you get 6 months free Spotify in the Black Tag event at Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Markets.
Coming up, less than 3 weeks until the UK elections. We'll get a read on what the latest there is. Plus, we'll take a look at some of the conflicting economic data we got out from the United States today. Right now, though, let's head over to Greg Jarrett for a Bloomberg Business Flash. Greg.
At least the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ all reached records right after China said that the Sino-American trade negotiations reached consensus on certain issues in a phone call and agreed to stay in contact on the remaining points. Also, we had a move in oil up that stayed up after the trade news. Alex Longley, Bloomberg News oil reporter, tells us that any benefit from oil from the U.S.-China trade situation could be short-term.
This is clearly a market that all year has been looking for direction from that trade agreement, and clearly if we get some sort of deal signed, there'll be a lift. The question then is what comes next. Oil demand has been treacherous this year. I think Goldman Sachs said commodity demand generally has been broadly terrible so far in 2019. And with 2020 approaching, people are now looking towards next year's balances and how things look.
We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. Off earlier highs, the S&P 500 is up less than a tenth, up 2. The Dow's up less than a tenth, up 22. And the NASDAQ's up a tenth of a percent, up 12. The 10-year is currently up 7/30 seconds with a yield of 1.73%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up 0.4% at 58.25 a barrel, with COMEX gold up a tenth of a percent at 14.64.90 an ounce. The dollar yen is at 109.03. The euro is $1.10.16, and the British pound $1.28.69. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
It is 10:33 on Wall Street. Time to check in with Bloomberg Opinion. We're joined by opinion columnist Marcus Ashworth. Marcus is a columnist covering European markets for Bloomberg Opinion. He joins us from the London radio studio of Bloomberg. So, Marcus, we're getting close to the election. December 12th is the election. I wonder if you could just give us an update on how things are playing out there.
Well, it's pretty
so good, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward if you want to look at it in the round, which is never easy because there's always a new comment or a lead story of some form. But the polls are pretty certain that the ruling Conservative Party under Boris Johnson will get a commanding majority, which will enable them, therefore, to go ahead and probably before Christmas, complete the Brexit withdrawal bill package, which will enable them to leave the European Union before the end of January, and then indeed move forward to doing a trade deal and the transition period, which they think will end before the end of about this time in a year. Now, that's the conventional view, and there's lots of other people out there who would love to see lots of different things. And, of course, all elections can go wrong and things can change. We have 2 and a bit weeks to go, and we saw this time 2 years ago that it all went horribly, horribly wrong for the previous Conservative Prime Minister, Theresa May. But this is a much more careful campaign from Boris Johnson. He's been under wraps, doing everything he should do. The manifesto has been understated. They flushed out the Labour Party very skillfully, I think, to expose himself as this massive Marxist sort of spend, unbelievable amount of plans that they want to bring, which doesn't scare that many people, it would seem. But if you look at the polls, it seems the Labour Party have actually shifted up slightly from a rock bed of, should we say, of 25% up towards 30, maybe early 30s now.
Yeah.
So there is still a chance of not a Conservative majority, but it's a pretty slim one.
So I'm wondering what enthusiasm is in terms of the expected turnout for the December 12th election.
Well, you look at 2 things. One is so-called voter registration, which everyone's getting very excited about today, which is that 3 million people have signed up to vote. Is that
sarcasm from you? I mean,
it is because...
Yeah, why are you being sarcastic about this?
Because I've seen this all before so many times, and all the youth, vote, youth quake, which came around last time. If you actually analyse the numbers, more of an old not turn up than a youth quake. And it's not so much the youth, it's the middle band of sort of perhaps 25 to 45 who have turned substantially more to the left in the UK over the last few years. And whether they turn up or they just disperse is the question this time around. But that there is a definite lift in voter registration, which is always an excellent thing in any democracy. By definition, if you can't command, decent turnout, then you don't really have a mandate. So I think that whether these guys turn out, traditionally you find the youth vote doesn't turn out quite so much. If it's a nice rainy day on December 12th, then, we shall see. But there's a lot of good things going on about this campaign, a lot of bad things, I'm sure. We saw some pretty interesting comments from the Chief Rabbi today. So there's a lot of invective coming into this campaign, which is making it a pretty seminal election, I think.
Marcus, I want to turn to a column you published today talking about, all right, Brexit aside, if and when Boris Johnson wins this election, how is he going to relate to the Bank of England?
Yeah, well, one has to feel for central bankers, not much really, but this time round, I mean, I've been pretty harsh on Mark Carney for getting involved in the Brexit debate where I think he shouldn't have done. Nonetheless, he's been pretty good at modernising the Bank of England, but the economy is evidently going into a bit of a little slump here, as is Europe, as is the rest of the world. This is not sort of necessarily, but a little bit of Brexit push behind it. I think first quarter, second quarter next year are going to be close to zero, I think, in the UK, and that's going to mean, does the Bank of England have to actually cut interest rates, which would seem counterintuitive after what we're reading, is that there's this huge fiscal spending coming from, if Labour gets in it, it's caramba. I mean, the uplift is 10%.
Caramba, we're going to quote you.
Yeah, well, it is caramba. It's literally ridiculous. And of course it won't happen. One, because they won't get elected. 2, even if they get elected in a minority government, the other parties will stop them. But nonetheless, there is, even on the expected Conservative win, there will be a very big uplift in fiscal spending. Should we say simply from a 2% of budget deficit ratio to GDP to a 3%. So that's a 50% uplift on your fiscal rule. That's big numbers, actually, for a one-off, into a new government, and that's going to be a big spend. But how does the Bank of England, the central bank, handle that?
Yeah.
Well, obviously you think they would not want to raise rates. The trouble is that short term, they may be forced to.
Marcus Ashworth, thank you so much. Marcus Ashworth, Bloomberg Opinion columnist, joining us from London, where those elections are going to be held in short order, December 12th. And we will be abiding by a whole host of rules ahead of that, where there are sort of phased-in periods where we can't talk about it. But now we can talk all about it. So have no fear. We're going to go Brexit crazy ahead of this Thanksgiving break. Right now, in markets, you're seeing a little bit of a lift, although pretty muted today ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Right now, let's head toward 99.1 Studios in Washington, D.C. Nathan Hager with World and National Headlines. Nathan.
Lisa, the Trump administration has filed notice. It plans to appeal a federal judge's ruling that former White House counsel Don McGahn must testify before a congressional committee. The judge rejected President Trump's argument that McGahn and others close to him are covered by broad presidential immunity from subpoenas. Bloomberg's Kathleen Hunter reports this has implications for the impeachment investigation.
We're talking about people like acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, others, former National Security Advisor John Bolton, folks that, have either their names have come up in other witness testimony or perhaps, in the case of Bolton, for instance, they're folks that the committee has already indicated they would like to hear from.
ABC News is reporting Bolton's attorney put out a statement saying the ruling does not apply to his client. 2 new polls show little change among Americans when it comes to impeachment, even after public hearings. Bloomberg's Amy Morris reports.
The latest CNN poll shows 50% support impeachment and removal. 43% are opposed. That's the same split as an earlier poll taken before the 5 days of public hearings. But that poll also shows the share of Republicans who believe the president improperly used his office has doubled. A Politico Morning Consult poll has similar findings, with 48% of voters surveyed saying they support the impeachment probe. That's the exact same result as a poll done a week earlier. In Washington, I'm Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
Democrat Michael Bloomberg's presidential campaign says it will release his tax returns, but it's not saying when or how many. This comes a day after Elizabeth Warren said she wouldn't release returns from before she entered public office. Bloomberg is founder and majority owner of Bloomberg Radio parent Bloomberg LP. Global news on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Next. Nah. Nope. Boring. If you skip through loads of your TV channels, why are you paying loads of money for them? With TalkTalk TV and Faster Fibre, you can access the nation's favourite TV shows, a world of films and sport, live and on demand, all for £25.95 a month for 18 months. And if you're quick, you'll even get a year of Amazon Prime on us. Search TalkTalk TV. TalkTalk. For everyone. Offer ends 5th of December, subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
Make their Christmas wishes come true. Whether they want to jet off on Barbie's dream plane, run with the storm in Fortnite, or glide along on My Lovely Llama. At littlewoods.com, you'll find all the toys they love, all with inclusive delivery and free returns. Own Christmas. Shop now at littlewoods.com.
There is simply nothing else like it. Giraffe strut, bird swoop, gazelles leap. And as the music soars, the entire Serengeti comes to life around you. This is Disney's The Lion King. Experience it at London's Lyceum Theatre. Visit thelionking.co.uk.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
Keys? Check. Lunchbox? Check. 8-year-old ready to go? Check. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new segregated section of Cycleway 4 under construction on the A200 Creek Road around the junction with Deptford Church Street. So expect delays due to lane closures. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Looking for a phone that makes everything look crystal clear? Like the incredible iPhone XR with a liquid retina HD display? Look no further than Tesco Mobile's best ever Black Friday event. You can find an iPhone XR for just $27.49 a month, saving you £180. Be quick, this deal ends Sunday 1st of December. Tesco Mobile, every little helps.
Best ever Black Friday based on range of products in promotion was £32.49, now £27.49. Offer ends 1st of December. 36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage agreement, subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Going, gone.
Some things just don't hang around. Like a great deal in Tesco Mobile's best ever Black Friday event. Right now you can get the Samsung Galaxy S10 for just $29.99 a month. But this deal ends Sunday 1st of December. Catch it before it's gone. Tesco Mobile's best ever Black Friday event. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Best ever Black Friday based on range of products in promotion was £35.99, now £29.99. Offer ends 1st of December. 36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage agreement, subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Dreaming of prepping that perfect Thanksgiving feast? Like, tune in, lend a hand with our collection of cooking podcasts, like the Bon Appetit Foodcast.
All right, guys, we have 10 minutes to discuss your expertly spiced and glazed roast turkey. It starts
and
now.
Good food.
So welcome to Good Food.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So how many years have you been hosting your own?
It varies from year to year, and by my own...
Search Thanksgiving on TuneIn to take your turkey day table to the next level.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Stocks reached record highs before easing back just a bit as investors are looking for signs of progress in the China comments about prospects for a Phase 1 trade deal. We look at the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500's up 0.1% up 3. Dow's up 0.1% up 34. And the Nasdaq's up 0.2% up 15. The 10-year is up 7/30 seconds with a yield of 1.73%. West Texas Intermediate crude is holding gains, up 0.25% at 58.16 a barrel, while COMEX gold's up 0.2% at 14.6690 an ounce. The dollar yen 109.01, the euro $1.1015, the British pound $1.2860. Consumer confidence in the U.S. unexpectedly fell for a fourth straight month as sentiment about current labor market conditions ease, posing a challenge to retailers heading into the all-important holiday shopping season. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Wall Street confidence ahead of the 2020 year seems to be increasing. Consumer confidence, not so much. We got to read today that consumer confidence in the U.S. declined for a fourth straight month. The big question in my mind is, are we seeing a sort of reversal where the consumer starts to sort of become less confident and less profligate with its spending, while Wall Street gets more excited about stock prices? Chris Grupke, Managing Director and Chief Financial Economist at MUFG Union Bank, joining us now. What do you make of this waning consumer confidence?
Yeah, it's interesting because don't forget there's two separate measures. And the Michigan survey of consumer sentiment as opposed to confidence, more or less the same, It's come back quite a bit. So it was down in the dumps in August when the stock market had that turmoil, and purchasing managers said manufacturing was in a recession. That consumer confidence measure has come back and doesn't look as worrisome as the one that came out today. So it's a bit of a mixed bag here.
Yeah, it's Chris. We also had the housing data that came in very strong. Are you still confident that this consumer can continue to support this economy through 2020?
Well, so far so good. We'll get another look at how many jobs are being created next Friday. So that's really, as long as it's not just what consumers or workers are spending, it's also how many new workers are being added each year. And right now, the jobs report's, running about 130,000 per month of new jobs. Those are going to be new consumers that will spend the economy, will, spend dollars that helps the economy grow. But, yeah, it is interesting. Real GDP numbers have come down, the estimates for the fourth quarter, so we'll see how that all plays out.
So I want to shift gears a little bit to the housing market. We got a couple of better than expected data points out this morning showing that new home sales in the United States posted their best 2 months in more than 12 years. How much can we draw from that in terms of the broader economic reach?
Yeah, people are surprised by this data. It gets revised dramatically sometimes. So the reason new home sales are so strong today is we had a wicked upward revision to the September data a month ago. In other words, a month ago we thought there was a 701,000 new homes being purchased annual rate. Now it's 738. So the difference is 738 means we reached a 12-year high and we came off modestly so far. I mean, don't forget to put it in historical perspective. During the housing bubble years over a decade ago, new home sales were running easily above 1.2 million per year at an annual rate, and now we're back to 738,000. Still, it does show you that, the consumer confidence can't be that bad off if they're buying the most new homes that they have in roughly 12 years. So it's hard, it's very mixed data today. I would say the underlying data is not that bad for the economy. We don't want to question the economic outlook for next year yet.
Trade. Chris, it looks like we're making some headway on global trade, maybe a phase one deal. From an economics perspective, what would that mean to you to get such a deal?
That would be good. I mean, there's two different things. There's kind of like the announcement. It's kind of like Fed policy. There's the announcement effect of trade deals, which could affect, stock market levels and investor confidence. And, the trade war effect on the stock market is nil. I mean, maybe some of that is they're always hopeful for an agreement. But with the S&P 500 closing up 25% year to date last night, people aren't worried about these news headlines. But, it would be big because the way I would approach this is that our next big deadline is December 15th. There's potentially we're going to put 15% tariffs on the final tranche, 160 billion of goods that consumers like, things like cell phones, laptop computers, video game consoles. So we'll see where that goes. The biggest effect for me as an economist is if the 500 billion roughly imports from China a couple years ago, if those imports all get tariffed at 30%, that would be a hit of almost 1 percentage point to GDP. So if you were looking for 2% GDP next year, 2020, I'd have to mark it down closer to 1%. Simply if the trade, but we got to go to 30% tariffs across the board, and we're not there, and it looks like we're not going to get there, so that would be good news.
One of the big challenges over the past year has been deciphering what is simply a global economy that is slowing down on the heels of China's economy decelerating, and what is due to trade. And I think about Hewlett-Packard's earnings, for example. We were talking about this with Anand Srinivasan earlier this morning. He was talking about how capital expenditures when it comes to the cloud, when it comes to services, have been going down. I mean, do you take something from this that goes beyond just do we get some, prophylactic deal that sort of gives a truce and allows people the confidence to go forward?
Well, one of the things I'm a little bit worried about is that this slowdown in business investment isn't completely due to China. I mean, China, obviously, the tariffs on some of the imports for manufacturers here isn't great. Equipment has been slowing. But don't forget, we're 10 years into an economic expansion, and there still is a business cycle. A lot of this equipment that companies buy is very long lived, so they're not going to come out and buy every single year a bunch of the new equipment. You know, they space it out every 3, 4, 5 years. So what if they've already bought the equipment they need given this 10-year expansion? So we're already seeing data like durable goods orders not going up anymore, which tells me that companies have as much equipment as they need right now to meet the current demand for goods and services. So it's not just China, but it's complicated. It's complicated. We are kind of in an aging economic expansion where purchases should slow naturally.
So, Chris, just next 30 seconds. Given your economic outlook, do you think the Fed, I guess the market's discounting one Fed rate cut maybe in that September meeting, is that consistent with your outlook?
I don't want to talk about rate cuts. I don't think it does any good at this level. I mean, we're not yet at the level of negative rates like Japan and Europe, which did nothing. I think they've kind of turned the light switch on and off too many times for interest rates, the Federal Reserve, and now they've kind of broken their tool. I don't think cutting rates from 1.75% is going to cause any U.S. corporation to go out and spend more on equipment, buy new offices or warehouses. I think the days of the Fed riding to the rescue and cutting rates and boosting growth, it's just not going to happen. I would prefer, with the baby boom generation retiring, that they keep rates where they are, if not move them up in the next couple of years a little bit.
Chris Rupke, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your thoughts. Chris Rupke, Managing Director and Chief Financial Economist for MUFG Union Bank, joining us on the phone. Chris kind of suggesting here that he's pretty comfortable with where rates are at the moment.
Well, I think a lot of people are, which is the reason why Fed Chair Jay Powell could come out and be so positive on the U.S. economy and not spook people. I mean, this is a change in the dynamic, if you think about it, because in the past, it would have been viewed as maybe they'd be thinking about raising rates or not lowering rates. Now people are fine with them just holding tight and being in the background.
Exactly. Given where we are with the economic cycle, given where we are with interest rates, the market seems to feel like this is a pretty good soft landing. This is Bloomberg.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can fill your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery is running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We hunt in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
Keys? Check. Lunchbox? Check. 8-year-old ready to go? Check. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new segregated section of Cycleway 4 under construction on the A200 Creek Road around the junction with Deptford Church Street. So expect delays due to lane closures. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Hello, I'm Jo Brand. When I see people homeless over Christmas, I find it really upsetting. Whether they're sleeping in doorways, on buses, or in hostels, it just shouldn't be happening. But it doesn't have to be like this. This Christmas, crisis centres across Britain are providing warmth and safety, plus long-term support to find people a job and a home. Please reserve a place for someone at Crisis this Christmas for just £28.87. Go to crisis.org.uk now. Thank you.
Looking for a phone that makes everything look crystal clear? Like the incredible iPhone XR with a liquid retina HD display? Look no further than Tesco Mobile's best ever Black Friday event. You can find an iPhone XR for just $27.49 a month, saving you £180. Be quick, this deal ends Sunday 1st of December. Tesco Mobile, every little helps.
Best ever Black Friday based on range of products in promotion was £32.49, now £27.49. Offer ends 1st of December. 36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly monthly usage agreement subject to status. Phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Oh, what a brilliant photo.
Look at Danny in the background laughing.
And Matt smiling.
Wait, is he holding hands with Sarah?
You're kidding!
Don't miss a thing. Like being able to claim a pair of Silver Galaxy Buds when you purchase the Samsung Galaxy A90 5G before the 2nd of December. The Samsung A90 5G has 4 cameras, so you can capture every detail. Because the detail matters. Get the latest Samsung Galaxy A90 5G now at your local 3-shop or 3.co.uk. Offer available on purchase made by 2nd of December 2019 and claimed online within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
World 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney.
Are we on the brink of a more serious downturn?
I've always thought of the municipal bond market as a little bit of a safe haven.
Banks are going to have to start paying their depositors more.
Are we still in that mode where we're buying the dips?
Breaking market news and insight from Bloomberg experts.
Cash, if you're looking at treasury bills, provides a higher return than stocks and bonds here in the U.S.
If your consumer is a woman, you're more likely to be a growth company.
Longer-term interest rates can go down, even with short-term interest rates still going up a little bit.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Coming up, we're going to dig into that economic data that we received earlier this morning. Consumer confidence coming in a little bit weaker than expected, offset by very, very strong housing numbers, and we'll dig deep into those numbers. But first, let's go to Greg Jarrett of Bloomberg News for a Bloomberg Business Flash. Greg.
All stocks have edged up from record levels as markets wait for more progress on U.S.-China trade relations and are digesting the mixed retailer earnings. Brian Levitt, Invesco Global Market Strategist, tells Bloomberg 2020, in his opinion, should be another good year for these markets.
You know, I think that we're still in this environment where investors have not gotten overly enthusiastic about equity. Stocks are still cheap to bonds. Policies accommodate. So a lot of investors, the recession fears, that this has been going on for too long. This cycle, in my opinion, is not ending anytime soon. This is an elongated bull market, and it should go on for longer than most people suspect.
We check those markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500 is up 0.1%, up just about 4. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 0.1%, up 36, and the Nasdaq's up 0.2%, up 17. The 10-year is up 6/30 seconds with a yield of 1.73%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up 0.2% at $58.12 a barrel, with COMEX gold up 0.1% at $14.65.90 an ounce. The dollar yen 109.10, the euro $1.10.16, and the British pound $1.28.40. Dollar Tree shares have followed the most intraday since 2012 after the budget retailer trimmed its outlook on 2019 profits, saying tariffs on Chinese imports are driving up costs. The company's shares fell as much as 17%, now down 15%. That is a Bloomberg Business. Markets continues now with Paul and Lisa.
Thank you so much, Greg Jarrett. We are seeing a little bit of a lift in big caps, small caps even more so. Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks editor, rejoining us here despite my heckling him on his tie last hour. What are you seeing, Dave?
Well, the more so is definitely there. The Russell 2000 index is up 0.4%. The S&P 500 is only up 0.1%. The Russell's biggest gain by far belongs to Chemocentrics, whose ticker is CCXI. The drug developer has soared more than 280%. The company's proposed treatment for an autoimmune disease met the main goal of a final stage study. Blue Links Holdings, ticker BXC, has rallied 15.5%. The building product distributor said it expects to announce real estate deals in the coming weeks. Blue Links tumbled yesterday by 23% after filing for a $50 million share sale. And Dycom Industries, ticker DY, has risen 7.5%. The builder of phone and utility networks posted fiscal third quarter profit and revenue that beat analyst average estimates in a Bloomberg survey. Now, the Russell's steepest drop belongs to Movado Group, ticker MOV. The watchmaker has fallen more than 23% after cutting this year's earnings and sales forecast. And Titan Machinery, ticker TITN, has lost almost 17%. The seller of farm and construction came up short of earnings and revenue estimates for the fiscal third quarter.
Bloomberg Stocks editor Dave Wilson, thank you so much. We had some consumer confidence numbers came out this morning, declining for the fourth consecutive month. To get some more color, we welcome Lynn Franco. Lynn is the Senior Director of Economic Indicators at the Conference Board, joining us on the phone. Lynn, thanks so much for joining us. What did the data tell you this morning about the consumer?
Well, we had a little bit of the fourth month in a row now that we've had a decline, but overall consumers remain very confident. We think that the slowing that we're seeing in employment growth is probably one of the main reasons for the softening in confidence, but we think we're still poised to have a pretty good holiday season.
You said whenever you come on here, you say 1 month does not make a trend, but we have now 4 months. Does this now make a trend?
It makes a little bit of a trend, and I think it's very much in keeping in line with the weakening that we've seen in Q4. The bright spot here is that expectations actually went up. So that tells us that while consumers are well aware that the economy has softened, they don't expect that trend to continue. So I'd say going forward, let's just keep an eye on what happens in terms of the present situation. But for now, even though we've seen a softening in confidence, I don't think it's time to sort of, raise the red flag.
It's interesting, Lynn. We had the confidence number come out this morning that you're discussing, but we also have very strong housing numbers that came out this morning. How does housing fit into kind of how your index works?
Well, I think it's a very good sign, and also should give consumers some comfort that we're seeing, strengthening in the housing market. That's sort of one of the pillars. But the key thing here is going to be what happens in terms of job growth. And, we've seen some softening there, hence the softening in confidence. So we'll continue to monitor those very closely.
Lynn, one thing that we've seen is a divergence in confidence according to class in terms of higher income versus lower income. What are you seeing on that?
We're seeing absolutely the same thing. Those in sort of the upper income groups who have probably benefited more from home price appreciation, from the stock market appreciation, are relatively much more confident than those that are on a stricter budget.
But I'm wondering whether we can infer anything from the trend line in lower income Americans. In other words, if that tends to be a sort of canary in terms of where the overall trend is going to go.
I don't think we have any canaries as of yet, but we have seen throughout this recovery that it's always been sort of a tale of two consumers, and those in the upper income have always been, much more confident. Again, I think benefiting from housing and stock prices. Going forward, if we continue to see a softening in the job market, if we continue to see a deterioration in the present situation index, then I think we could say that, the economy is going to maybe decelerate even further. But for now, it looks like we're going to maintain this sort of 2% growth rate heading into early 2020.
Does your survey, does it capture any of the uncertainty that consumers may have about global trade?
Yes, we do ask a question. It doesn't go into the actual report. And that, while it may have spiked a few months ago, is really sort of under the radar at the moment. So it doesn't seem that, whether it's global trade, whether it's impeachment hearings or any of that is really having a significant impact. It's more sort of about the basics, a softening in business conditions and a softening in job growth.
Thank you so much for being with us, Lynn Franco, on these numbers that a lot of people have been widely anticipating, actually. Yes. Lynn Franco, Senior Director of Economic Indicators and Surveys at the Conference Board, joining us by phone. Meanwhile, we need to talk a little bit about pizza. I really do feel like this is
I knew
this
you were
story. I'm sorry. This story is...
So he ate how many pizzas?
John Schnatter. I always bungle his name. I'll get it. John Schnatter, the founder of Papa John's, who was kicked out, came out against the company. And he was talking in a local media interview in Louisville, Kentucky, where the restaurant chain is based. And he was talking about how it just isn't the same anymore, in particular with its pizza. And then he let this nugget drop. He ate 40 pizzas in 30 days. And he said, it's just not the same. And I was thinking, well, if anyone ate 40 pizzas in 30 days, I'm guessing they'd be pretty grumpy too.
Yeah, that was, why was he eating 40 pizzas in 30 days?
I think that's a great question. Okay. I'm wondering whether, first of all, he still owns at least 9% of a stake in the company. So he was once one of the largest shareholders. He still has a considerable stake. So there is sort of money on the plate for him to care about this, so to speak.
Right, and that was a little ugly, his exit, as I recall.
Correct. So you have to wonder how much is also schadenfreude, hoping to sort of rain on any parade. But it just, the image of him eating 40 pizzas in 30 days and getting increasingly disgruntled is one that is going to be a memorable one in this pre-Thanksgiving week for me.
And not surprisingly, is one of the most read stories on the Bloomberg terminal today.
People are already thinking about food, clearly.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, in the markets, we're seeing a bit of a lift here. And I think that it is interesting to see that it's not more, even though there was a phone call between the U.S. and China. I remember once upon a time when that used to matter.
Markets. Yes, that would have moved markets.
And I don't know if it's just that everybody is already in a pre-Turkey comatose state, or whether people have just seen this movie so many times before. It just doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Let's head it down to our Washington, D.C. office, 99.1 studios there. Nathan Hager with world and national headlines. Nathan.
Lisa, thanks. The Trump administration says it will appeal a federal judge's order for former White House counsel Don McGahn to testify before Congress. President Trump had argued McGahn and others close to him had broad immunity from congressional subpoenas, but the judge rejected that. President Trump himself has toyed with giving testimony in the impeachment investigation. But for White House counselor Kellyanne Conway,
I would not tell the president to testify or provide written answers, since on October 8th, his own White House counsel made very clear that we look at this as an unconstitutional and ill-conceived illegal process from the beginning.
And in a series of tweets this morning, President Trump said people are reading too much into the McGahn ruling, and he says he'd like people to testify. Fighting for future presidents. We're learning more about a meeting President Rudy Giuliani had with an aide to Ukraine's president in Madrid last August. Sources tell the Washington Post while he was in Spain, Giuliani stayed at the historic estate of Venezuelan energy executive Alejandro Betancourt Lopez, who had hired